I want to talk about intakes and requests. This comes up a lot in the work that we do. And so, if you are in a marketing team, you might be receiving incoming requests from multiple places: Slack, Teams, email, having meetings where people are just giving you the information and you're having a hard time tracking it all. You may be in the PMO and it's your responsibility to receive incoming project requests. You need a better way to streamline, validate, and resource and execute all of these projects. You might be in IT receiving incoming requests through a ticketing system for support or for hardware. It could be an onboarding process with HR, whatever the case may be. I'm going to talk you through some of the concepts and hopefully share some best practices so you can better understand, how we can approach this. What I want to say is that this will look a little bit different. Think about your use case. If you want to leave a comment, I'm happy to get back to it. But let's just say our starting point for simplicity's sake is going to be what that intake looks like. And the goal is to consolidate and basically create a way for everyone to submit the requests in one standardized way. And our best practice at Cirface is to do that through an intake form. So I'm going to call this intake form. And now this form can take on, various, shapes and sizes, but like here's an example of what that could look like. This is a request for creative, right? So you have the name of the request, the description, when you need it by, region of the request, department submitting that request, because some teams, want to be able to say track which departments are putting through the most amount of requests. So we can create reports for that downstream. We can have all the assets, all the relevant documents all captured here as well. So when I say form, that's what I'm talking about, right? The next step from here is what we would do is we would have all of these submissions go into a triage project. Okay. Oftentimes there is some sort of triage project, but the way that we think about triage and actually start working through the work, sometimes it's out of order, sometimes it's premature. Right. We don't have all the information. Or the problem is, hey, we have to go out and find the missing pieces. The person that submitted it didn't give enough information. We have to have meetings. There are a million documents and spreadsheets that we have to fill out. There's ideation that needs to happen. And so the goal is to reduce all of that time in between submission and execution, of course. So within this triage, what we're going to see here really is a few things. This can be used for, again, this is our central intake board. So this could be a project inside of Asana. Typically, this falls into some kind of requests section, let's call it. From there, we want to be able to validate this request. Is this something we do? Is this something we can do? Do we have all the information? So we could say validation. Sometimes this is like a needs more info section, something like that. And then that would also be the section, right? And then from there, maybe we need to now start resourcing this, right? Like we validated this is a good idea. This aligns with our best practices. Let's start resourcing this now, right? From there, we have all the people that need to be involved in it, right? And now this is ready to be either put into a sprint or ready to execute. So we've got the people, we've lined them up. We can decide if we want to start executing on that project right now, or we can put this in a parking lot. So this could be another stage where it's like ready to be worked on, or simply put, this could be like approved, whatever your language or nomenclature looks like, totally up to you. Right. And then from there, we would move into what I like to call, let's just call it in progress for now. This triage project really takes on the role of all of these things. And so keep in mind at this stage, you still have one single task that you're looking at, right? If we look at this example, what this could look like, this is where our form could be submitted in this creative requests example. Comes into new requests, right? This is just an idea for now. We're not doing anything with it. It's assigned to a project manager, product owner, whatever the case may be, IT, sysadmin, right? Then we resource it. And whatever that looks like, if we need more information, we can ask for that information in the task, or traditionally, we can have a million meetings, which I don't suggest doing. And then we can go and put it in progress. All right. And so the reason why I wanted to stress, this whole process here when it comes to triaging and planning, and that's really what it is, right? This is for new requests, for validation, but it's really for the planning process. So let's just put this all out right here. This can all happen in here. What happens is we see planning happening in disparate locations. So spreadsheets or Word docs, or we're in another system like Smartsheet, and a form has to be submitted in Smartsheet with all the information that was gathered in this other tool so that the team using Smartsheet can now input or provide their input into what, this should look like when it's executed. It's important that we establish that one source of truth that is central for everybody. This does a few things. What this will allow us to do is let's take a look at our in progress or active requests. Okay. I'm going to show you something here in a minute that I think is going to make this all make a bit more sense and why we want to do it this way. But we want one place where anyone can go and see all of the incoming requests, regardless of what type of request it is. And we want to see what's active right now. Yes, at one point you could have all those active projects in a portfolio, but we're not there yet. There's still so much that we need to do, and we can glean from our team before we get to creating a project from a template and adding it to a portfolio where we can start tracking our budget and our time spent and the status of that project. There's a lot more that we can do here. So you want to create a place, one where you can go and see everything. And what this will allow us to do is give us a dashboard of information on all of these different projects. So, how long do requests typically sit inside of the new request stage? If you have an SLA that you have to adhere to, you want to know that you're meeting those requirements. How long does it take tasks to go through our resourcing? Takes 3 to 4 weeks, takes 5, 6 weeks, right? Do we want to cut that down? Is that one of the reasons why we'd want to, improve our systems, right? So we can track that information. How many projects do we have in progress? How long on average have they been in that state? Where are the blockers? If we see any overdue timeframes here or durations here for our task, why is that happening? So we can gather a lot of information from this rather than having multiple forms, which is what we often see, multiple forms all going to different people, different departments, and there's no way for any of those forms or any of the submitted information to be housed or visualized inside of one place. And so that's really the primary reason for all of this. Okay. From here, and I'm just going to expand on the in progress for a second and what this can look like. Okay. So I'm going to move this over here and we're going to call this execution. All right. So this is where we're actually starting to do the work now. Now, what we've seen as a best practice is starting in the triage and moving to execution in the way that I'm going to show you now. So let's change the color of this so we know we're in a different state. We have all the information, all of the meetings that we've had, agendas, action items, they've all been treated as subtasks of that main new request, right? So subtasks and comments within that parent task are how we want to think about this, right? We've had approval, we've had people review things, we've had to dos, right? And so all of that has happened already. Now, we're going to take that same task, that same new request, which has now been validated and ready to execute. We're going to take that and now we're going to move it into execution. We can go from the planning to ready to, all right, great. Let's now turn this into a project so we can start working on it. And so, what this would look like now is we have the task, it's always going to live inside of our triage project. But now to execute on that, we have to redistribute or distribute, I should say, all of the different tasks to all the people that are going to be involved. So if we have a marketing campaign, we are rolling out a new brand, we need products involvement, we need design, we need copy, we may need legal, we need to approve our verbiage, right? Of course, we need copywriters, we need landing pages built. And so all of that work can and realistically should happen in different places. You have your design team that's in one space working on all of their incoming requests. And then you have your copywriters working on their incoming requests. You have your legal team working on their incoming requests as it relates to this one um, validated request or idea. So now our next step would be to do this. We're going to convert task to project. And so you can do that pretty simply in Asana. You can set up a rule that says when a task moves to a certain stage or a section, and in this case, execution, we want to convert that task to a project. What's also nice is we can tell that rule when we're building that rule that when this project is converted, we want to say use template X for that. And then we want to add new project converted, I'll call it, to portfolio um, Y. Okay, so now we have this process where we've gone in, spread these out a little bit, and we've turned this into a converted project, which now we can work. And so let's just say for fun that this is our new project template. Okay, forget that this says requests. Just for a second. Now this says campaign X converted from task. Let's just play with me for a second, okay? It now sits inside of the global campaigns portfolio rather than obviously this is creative assets. So just humor me for a minute here, okay? Um, Now we can do a few things. We can either name these sections to be the different phases that a project or a campaign would need to go through. Because keep in mind, we can create different templates for the different types of requests that would come through. If we have a capital project that needs to go through phases or stage gates, 1 through 10, we can have a template just for that. And when this type of request comes through, because we can ask that information on the form, we can say, use this template, add it to this portfolio or set of nested portfolios. And mind you, I haven't even talked about AI yet and what Asana's AI Studio can do with all of this. We're just talking about basic rules here because I want to keep it really light for today. These could all be all your phases and all your stage gates. And then because you know what kind of project it is, you can go and check those off. They're all assigned to your individual people. Okay, that's one way you can do it. You can have another section where you call it to do, like so. This one can be all your tasks that are now moved to in progress. So if you are using like Kanban, progress, if you're using Kanban or you want to sprint this, right, you can do that. We would switch to the board view, obviously, in this case to make that a bit easier, right, in progress. And then we could have like needs approval, like so. And then we can have, all of your done options. So those could be the names of the sections here instead of what we have. Another way we can do it, and let me just switch over for a second here. What's nice is this in progress, we can even expand on this, right? So a full project that's in progress, we can say, great, it's in progress, but then we can, get granular and we can say this is now in needs final approval when that task or that project to this stage, right? So that's another thing that we can do. Another way we can look at this is to say now instead of to do in progress needs approval and done, we could do this. We can say this is for the copy team. These tasks are for the design team. These tasks are for legal. These tasks are for the web team, and then we would have social and email copy and all of that kind of stuff after the fact. So those are the different options for sections. So if you did want to keep everything inside of this one project, you can easily do that. And this is what we see as the best ways to do it. Either having the sections as the team that's responsible, keep it all in one, or you can have the to do. Now, I'm gonna say for like the essence of time today that these are the ones that I'd recommend going first. What this allows you to do, if I see go back to my example, is when we add all of those different projects to our portfolio. So let's just say, oh, this is a campaign portfolio. So let's just say that project we created from the task, we converted it over already. Let's just say it lives inside of this campaign portfolio. And then we can now see all of our ongoing campaigns. When I mentioned earlier, we can nest our different portfolios. What I meant is if this was 2023-24 TV programming campaigns, we could have a sub portfolio that we called the America programming campaigns, and then organize all of those projects within that. We could have another sub portfolio. We call it Asia Pacific programming campaigns, EMEA programming campaigns, and further segment and organize our information. Then obviously we can get all the information we need. Like, how are we doing? Is this project on track? Is it at risk? Is it off track? Is it on hold? What's our budget? What's our estimated hours? What milestones have been achieved? Right. And then we can get all of this reporting as well. So we can see at a glance what our budgets are, what our sums, what's the sum of what's been spent so far, how many overdue tasks, what's the health of our portfolio as well, like how many projects are on track, at risk, off track, on hold. And I'll kind of pause for a second to say that what I'm showing you right here is like you need to be on at least the advanced plan of Asana. There are a lot of workarounds that we see with teams when they're using the starter plan or trying to do a lot of this on the free plan. We wouldn't advise it. If you can and you have it in your budget, minimum, go to the advanced plan on Asana. You're going to make your life so much easier. I promise you. There's no codes here or affiliate links. Just like, I don't care if you never respond or don't work with us, but do yourself a favor. If you're not using the advanced plan, find it in your budget, please. It's going to make your life so much easier. Going down here, we can now see all of the projects that we have ongoing in one place. We can see their timelines. We can change the timelines. We can see the milestones, what's overdue, what's completed. We can get so much more information here. And then to top it all off, I don't have it in this view, but we can see the workload and capacity of all of our team members in one place across all of our campaigns. And so if you're on advanced and not on enterprise or enterprise plus, you're not going to have access to global workload or global capacity. So you're going to want to use your workload and portfolio so you can see exactly who's assigned to what over what time period. And you can measure that in terms of estimated time or percentage allocation if you want to. And so this is what the art of the possible looks like when it comes to how we can organize our different campaigns. Okay. The other thing that I like to do and sometimes just works better for your team is this. If you're a team that has been working in Asana for a long time and you're finding it difficult to adopt a new way of working and you don't want to interrupt, your team's way of working, this is another way that we can execute. So same kind of thing, validated requests would come in, you'd still convert your task to a project, you would still use the template, let's say, but rather than all the work happening in either like to do in progress, needs approval or done, or by a department, we could do this, but if it works better for your teams to work in their own individual spaces, this is the extension of that. So let's just say they've got all their tasks here. They could still work through them, but this is what an extension could look like to clean up the view and then to really assess the workload of the copy team, the design team, the legal team, and web all in one different way. So let's move this down here so it can be beside here. So let's just say this orange dotted line represents we're now multi-homing, which I love doing, multi-homing tasks from the original template, okay, that we can assess and look at in a portfolio. And we're multi-homing those tasks that are assigned to each of these teams into their own working boards. Okay, so this is the copy board. And if you're not familiar with multi-homing, in essence, what it is you have a single task that can live in multiple places. You can have it in project A, it can live in project B, C, D, E, and F, and it can provide visibility around that one instance. It can improve communication because all the communication is happening in that one instance of a task. It's not a copy of a task. It's the same task that lives in multiple projects so that teams that are in multiple projects can introduce the task to their own unique workflow. Okay. So let me just finish this for a second. Let's say our second board is our design board. From there, we can also do our legal board. And I'm saying board, but they're projects. Okay, keep that in mind. These are projects, and maybe they're in a board view, but when I talk with new users to Asana, they often will say board instead of project. So they are synonymous. Okay, so we've got our different boards there. Let's move this over a little bit. And now, what's really interesting, let me get a new sticky. We can do something like this. So, copy board might have their own workflow that starts with to do, or it could start with backlog. It wouldn't really matter, right? And then they move to do, like so. And then from to do, they go in progress. And then from here, they have ready for approval. And then we could have this is copy, right? So copy draft one approved. And then we could have another stage. I see this sometimes copy draft two approved. And then we could have final approval like that. And then we can have the last stage in this copy board as done, right? And then once it gets here and it's done, this will get updated in our master template over here, right? In the copy section, right? So if you're following that. And so it allows multiple teams to improve their flexibility. Again, it allows you to assess workload on that copy board or project. I was going to say project. You can get your own workload, right? Workload can be assigned for individual projects. You can have your own dashboards and reports for that individual project so that the manager of the copy board or the brand manager, the product manager, the project manager can really see how is copy doing? Do I have enough resources available before formally on this other example, right? Do we have enough people? Let me just double check really quickly. So we can see that information way downstream before we validate and approve anything. That's what this resourcing section is really for. And if we have it set it up in this way, it makes it really easy to see who's available to take that work on. Okay. So that's what the copy board will look like. I'm not going to do the rest of these, but let's just say that these are all the same. Oh, let's just say that these are all the same and then ready for approval. And then we can say approved, right? And then for legal, it could just be simply this. So we can have this right here. Maybe we can remove that. They have a much shorter workflow, right? So they validated what they need to. There's obviously going to be red lines added. Maybe we can say in revision. So, and then web obviously will have their own kind of thing. Maybe some of their tasks need to go to Jira because their developers are in Jira. And so that's where you can introduce an automatic integration that tasks that land here when it goes into, you know, after to do, it says, ready for dev or, you know, wireframes, something like that. We can now introduce the Jira massive logo into our end-to-end workflow. And so again, it just gives a lot more flexibility for teams to be able to work in the ways that they're used to working while still being connected to that original project board. And what you'll see is over time, all these tasks are being checked off. I've got the individual status. We go back over here, myself as the senior leader, can come in and see how are we doing. And it's going to be the same information translated across these multiple spaces. And so to give you just a better sense of what this can look like, right? We come through that intake board. We've already assigned it, the type of campaign. So this is a campaign. We're following this one here. From there, what kind of campaign or event is it? Right. This is a brand awareness, lead generation, seasonal sales. So these can all be converted into project templates for that type of campaign or event. All of those can be automatically promoted and populated into our different sub portfolios. Remember, I mentioned those in my example. I think I used region, but this could be campaign type. And then we can have all of these campaign type portfolios live inside of a large overarching campaign portfolio. And what's nice is the entire time we can get reporting and status updates and tracking across all of our campaigns all at once, all of our sub campaigns. We can report at this level. On our projects, we can report at that level as well. And then, of course, like I mentioned, we can always go back to our main board to see based on the stage it is, how we're doing. Okay. So This was something I've been wanting to do for a while. I get these questions a lot as to like what are the best practices, and I think there's so many different ways you can do it. That's what I love about Asana. It's a big open box. You can do whatever you want with it. Again, I didn't even talk about AI and what we can do with AI, but the choice is yours, right? These are some of the options. We have our best practices, but when we work with your team, we can really drill in and figure out what's the best option for you. Our team goes away. We do the heavy lifting to say, this is what we recommend for you. You're going to get a Miro board that looks maybe something similar to this. It'll look different for your use case, but at least we're gonna give you and present you the best options based on our best practices and the now thousands of solutions we've implemented. But I wanted to use today just to give you a better understanding of what this could look like and how you can use these some of these practices for your team. So thank you for watching and looking forward to your questions, and hopefully we'll see you in another video. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye for now.